Have you ever thought what the animal kingdom or an elephant could teach us about persuasion and people? What to do, what not to do? It's amazing that in the animal kingdom there are animals that remember if you've wronged them and retaliate. For example, chimpanzees, as we know, are highly intelligent, will hold grudges within their social groups. Crows, they're intelligent too, but they have facial recognition capabilities. So if a human threatens them, harasses them, they've been known to mob or dive bomb them months or even years later. And then when we talk about today, elephants, and they're known for their exceptional memories, but they will retaliate against humans or even specific villages if a member of their herd has been harmed or killed by poachers. They remember individuals and places. Why do I bring that up? Because people remember you. Do they remember the good service, the bad service, the long wait time, the prompt service, or short wait time? Are they going to remember the mediocre food or awesome food? They're going to remember if you're a nice person or a bad person. They're going to remember how you treated them, just like the elephant. And there are things you can do and implement to make sure they remember you in a good way, especially if you want to do long-term business together. For example, I remember one neighbor borrowed one of my books 15 years ago, never returned it. That's how I remember them. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Another neighbor, I was moving in a piece of furniture that was getting inside the house. Neighbor saw that I needed help, parked their car, got out, and helped the furniture. That's how I remember them. So how are you being remembered? Let's do it.
Maximize your influence. Kurt Mortensen is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximum Influence.
Glad you're here, learning how to persuade, motivate, and influence, even persuade yourself. You can even add negotiation and even some mediation here. We'll talk about some of those things. But the main thing here is every time you try to persuade and influence, remember, first of all, that when you need to persuade somebody, it's too late to learn. Just ask yourself, all right, did it work? Did I do it well? What can I do next time the same way? That's something to take a look at. And what do I need to improve? That's how we get better. That's what we're looking for. 1% improvement a week, a month, whatever you're looking for. It'll make big differences in your success and your income and your ability to persuade, motivate, and influence. So this is podcast 569, Maximize Your Influence. Again, this is Kurt Mortensen. Everything you need is at maximizeyourinfluence.com or the email you received. Make sure you sign up for our email. You can do that on the website. Take your free Persuasion IQ assessment and take a look at all the articles I'm going to mention today. Our geeky Scarly article. And this could be in your weirdness, that doesn't make a lot of sense category, but research is research, that plants and green decor in a hospital room may aid stress recovery. So this is Texas A&M University, Dr. Seuss and Dr. Maddock. And they did a study and found that hospital rooms with natural elements like indoor plants, a green decor, views of mountains or nature can help patients feel less stress and more mentally clear. So they found that indoor plants reduce stress and were the most effective in helping patients feel physically relaxed and mentally clear. So there was a few potted plants in the room, a fern on the table, and the patients were calmer. They felt better. Their stress went down. Why? Plants mimic our natural environments, which can soothe the brain and reduce anxiety. Then we've done podcasts on colors, and we know the color green can enhance relaxation. Whether it be wall paint or artwork, just natural themes can really help with the relaxation and reducing stress. I mean, I think we all like a white hospital room, but that's pretty sterile and not as comforting as other colors. Although I don't encourage the color black, that would be a little weird for a hospital room. And when you can see outside the window, view nature, really helped clear the patient's mind. Because nature kind of does a brain reset and can really reduce mental fatigue. So basically, small changes can make a big difference. Plants, decorations, green walls, scenery, things you can do that are low cost that really support healings. So bottom line, natural elements like plants, green decor, nature views significantly reduce stress, improve mental clarity, and patients recovered faster. And that reminded me of a study we had talked about a while back, and how you could apply this is on your Zoom calls. This comes from the PLOS Journal and Cook and Ross, and they found out on a Zoom call, if there's plants in the background, it actually boosts trustworthiness and competence. So on the studies, when there was a plant in the background, those people consistently were rated among the highest for trust and competence. Then came bookcases, and the bottom of the list was a living room, blank walls, and novelty backgrounds. So interesting, just the living room in the background was low, plants, bookshelves much higher. So bottom line, plants or a bookcase background inspire trust, especially in professional settings. Now, if it's your good friend, it probably doesn't matter. But if you're doing a job interview trying to get a customer or client, it matters. Because what happens is plants tap into our biophilia. All right, there's your word of the day. Basically, it's our human tendency to connect with nature and other living systems. So when you see plants, just like the hospital room study or in your Zoom call, those plants signal care and responsibility, traits associated with trustworthiness. Because if you haven't put any thought how you're presenting yourself, a messy background, working with college students, I've seen things in the background I don't want to repeat, but they didn't think about it, they just did it. So when you think about your background, you seem more competent, and the plants in the background, you seem more trustworthy. So you're basically balancing professionalism and warmth. Just like we talked about last month on the podcast, creating the right mood, the right environment is what you are looking for. The study shows that a plant background on Zoom increases perceptions of trust, competence, and you come across as more professional, reduces stress, shows that you care. That's what it comes down to. Such an easy thing to put a plant in your background. Even if you're not good with plants, maybe even a fake plant is better than no plant. Just saying, that's our geeky Scarly article. If you're doing a lot of Zoom calls, hey, get a plant or at least use your bookshelf. In fact, that's one of my background, my actual bookshelf of the books I've collected over the years, and it does make a difference. Now, if I'm doing an 8-hour Zoom teaching call, I might start off with that, bring in a whiteboard, bring in some PowerPoints, bring in another computer, got a beach background for later in the day, different things you can do to shake it up once you've established your trust and credibility. Which brings us to our ninja. So it's monitoring this negotiation. Kind of fun to be a fly on the wall, text, you should ask this, you should do this. Talk about good things they did, talks about things they can improve, read the other person, because some people get so emotionally involved, it's good to have a third party there. And so we can go through things and help them prep for the next session. And this was the other party. So this is probably the third round of negotiation. And just prepare yourself that negotiations don't always happen the first time around. Usually it takes a couple times. That's what people expect, especially when you're dealing with professional negotiators. They rarely do it in one shot. So he sat down. I'll make up a name here. He says, Pete, let's review what we talked about last time. And that's a ninja right there, to where you talk about things you've agreed upon before you get started. But we'll put that one aside. Then he says, before we talk about that, last time you left, you said you were going to your son's championship baseball game. How did that go? Ding, ding, ding. Elephant in the room. He remembered what they talked about last time, and just bringing that up just melted the ice, showed that you cared, showed that you're on top of your game because you remembered. Now, we'll go over some techniques here in a bit on how to do that to make it easy so it's not stuck in your brain. But wow, would that take 10 seconds, melted the ice, showed that you cared, built some empathy, great people skill, so simple. Takes seconds, but the impact lasts a long time. That is our ninja. And again, we're going to go ways to do that. Simple ways to remember to be the elephant. You don't want to wrong them and have them remember that. I'm talking about the positive things you can do to have them remember you in a positive light. So when they meet you, they smile, they like you, puts them in a better mood. And as we know, that makes them easier to persuade and negotiate with. Which takes us to listener email.
Oh boy!
By the way, send me an email at kurt@maximizeyourinfluence.com. Because if I use anything I get in the email, from a question to analyzing a study to a humor to anything, you get the free version of influenceuniversity.com. So Lauren from Utah says, Kurt, I'm bad at remembering names. I know that's important. I was reading about in Maximize Your Influence how names trigger a pleasure center in your brain and puts people in the right mood. How can I get better? How can I remember names? Awesome, Lauren. Thanks for writing in. First of all, your big challenges. You just said right in your email, I'm bad at remembering names. I can't remember names. I'm terrible at. Well, ding, ding, ding. You just programmed your brain that you're not. Why can't you say, I'm good? I'm getting better at. I'm learning how to. Will make it much easier. So let's start there. When you tell your brain I'm bad at, self-fulfilling prophecy usually happens. So that's number one. Number two, let's talk about that. That's part of the elephant, because when you have a great memory and you can remember someone's name, meeting them a month later, a year later, that really opens the doors to influence. So let's go back to the elephants. They remember, because elephants have been observed over the years showing behaviors that appear to be retaliatory, often in response for past abuse, poaching, or even perceived threats. So there was a famous study where African elephants in a national park in Kenya displayed distinct negative reactions when they encountered clothing or scents associated with Maasai warriors. Now, these are warriors that traditionally spear elephants as part of their rite of passage. And I remember this just, I believe last year in India, there was an elephant named Lakshmi who crushed a man, a caretaker, to death, sat on him, because after looking at the video footage, this caregiver, this person, would beat this elephant with a bamboo rod. And accident? I don't think so. So there's so many things you can do to be like the elephant, this elephant principle of persuasion. So let's go back to the negotiation, the ninja. Hey, how was your son's basketball game? Such a simple thing. So if you're in a meeting at the very end, they got to take off, their spouse is ill, their son's doing this, their daughter's in a play, this is happening, whatever it is, just type in your calendar. So you put in the date next time you're meeting, put it in the notes, say, hey, ask them about, you don't have to remember, you don't have to put it in your brain, you type it right in there, you make sure you check your notes, and you just ask. What a simple thing that you can do for impact. How was your birthday party? How was that restaurant? How was your vacation to Paris? Whatever they mention, write it down. That's why you should bring a notepad. So if you're face-to-face, just take notes. You're asking questions, you're writing down questions. If there's something you want to bring up next time, write that down on the bottom in the corner on the right-hand side, whatever you need to do, and it tells you what to ask. You don't need more bandwidth. You don't need extra brain power. You just need to be more aware. So after the session, whatever you need to do, put it in your calendar, put it in your notes, put it in your doc on the computer, wherever you need to put it, you know you're looking there, you make it happen. If you could bring up something that was mentioned last time, they're going to be impressed with your memory. But anyway, you can do things and be more like the elephant. And let's bring it down to this. We need to talk about this. This is brought up in listener email about remembering names. Because someone hears their own name, it lights up specific brain regions and does positively influence social interactions. Because you've had a time where someone's mispronounced your name, forgot your name, called you the wrong name. Of course, that has the opposite effect. That's not what we're looking for. We're not looking to be like the elephants and retaliate and remember the bad things. We're talking about the good things, remembering the names. So the studies are clear. There's one study in brain research They used MRIs on the brain, and when people heard their own names, the frontal cortex lit up. That means they're paying more attention. The temporal cortex lights up. That leads to more social awareness and likability. So the study found that when you hear your own name, it also releases dopamine. They're paying more attention, and they like you more. Another study in the Journal of Social Psychology found that addressing someone by their name, just in conversation, increases the perception of warmth and competence, again, making you more likable. Hopefully you read Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. What did he say? I mean, he did a whole chapter on this. Their name is the sweetest and most important sound for people to hear. So to recap, when you use their name the right way, you got to pronounce it the right way and use the right name. Makes you feel more recognized, builds rapport, releases dopamine, and leads to more positive feelings. So how do we do this? How to remember names? All right, lesson number 1, I already talked about. Reprogram your brain. No, I'm good at remembering names. I'm getting better at remembering names. Any of those is better than I'm bad at names. I can't remember names. It's not a function of memory. It's a function of caring and listening. If I sent you a room of 20 people and gave you $1,000 to remember everyone's name, you could figure out how to do it. But you don't need to figure it out. Let's talk about ways to remember names. Let's do it. The first one, repeat and use the name immediately. So when you meet someone, repeat their name right away in their conversation. Hey, nice to meet you, Frank. Use it naturally within the first few minutes, because when you do this repetition, it strengthens the neural connections in the brain, helping you transfer it from the short-term to long-term memory. You could associate the name with a visual image, so you link that person's name to something more memorable. For example, if their name is Rose, you're thinking about the flower blooming, it's on their shoulder, you make that picture, because visual things are easier to recall in your brain than auditory things. So bottom line, the brain's better recalling images than just words or names. That's why you want to associate it with some type of visual cue. Another one is, hey, can you spell that for me? So you're listening, you're thinking about it. So Kate, is that short for Caitlin? What's the origin? How did you get that name? The more time you can spend on it, the more time it shows that you care, but it also gives you more time to put it into long-term memory. And what this does is engages multiple cognitive processes, activates more parts of the brain, makes it easier to remember. Well, Michelle, is that with one L or two, right? You could ask those questions. Be careful. If their name's Sam, you're like, how do you spell that? That could be a challenge. So you could ask them about their name, the origin. Is Sam short for Samuel, or different ways that you can do it? Another thing you can do is link the name to someone you know. Connect the name to someone familiar, a good friend, a celebrity, even a fictional character from a movie. If their best friend is David and their name is David, you can link them together in your brain. If their name's Steve, you associate them with Steve Jobs. Their name's Bill, maybe Bill Gates. And final one, write it down either physically or mentally. So after meeting someone, visualize writing their name, how they write it out. Jot it down on a note, on a piece of paper, on your computer, on a Post-it, whatever you need to do. This engages the motor cortex and visual processing areas of the brain. And that helps with reinforcing memory through what's called multisensory encoding. Choose one, choose them all, choose two. This is how you remember people's names. Remembering names is the cornerstone of social intelligence, emotional intelligence, people skills. It shows respect, you're paying attention, you're showing genuine interest because you remembered and used their name. And of course, we know on the flip side, when you forget a name, shows disinterest, carelessness, they feel dismissed, and it hurts rapport. At a networking event, say, hey, it's Tom. You could say, great to meet you, Tom. And you make a mental picture of a tomato. They have a tomato on top of their head for Tom. So you've repeated the name. Maybe you've asked them, is that short for Thomas? I've added 2 or 3 techniques to help remember. Pick your 2 or 3 favorite techniques. Use them together. You are going to remember their names. If not, put it in your calendar, put it in your notes, write it on a notepad, whatever you need to do. But when you remember names and all the things I've talked about today, it improves social skills, likability, trust. So there you have it. That's podcast 569. All the notes and links can be found at maximizeyourinfluence.com. If you got an email, the link's in there. We'll continue on with our special lifetime membership of influenceuniversity.com. It's usually a monthly membership, but now this is a lifetime membership. Save 90%. This is the 52-week advanced video program. All my audios, videos, books, library, all in one spot to take you to the next level. But hey, take something that you learned today, apply it, use it, master it, become a better negotiator, a better leader, a better influencer, and a better marketer, and go out and persuade with power.